this demonstration is going to help you put together a basic soup. So I'm going to go over the different types of cuts for all the vegetables, and also working with canned tomatoes, beans, pasta, and some greens. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is the onion. Okay, so the onion, again, just a review, there's two parts of the onion. You have the root and then the stem. The first thing that you want to take off is the stem end. The root stays on. Okay, and then you're going to flip it onto its flat side. Reach over, cut through half. And we're going to do a medium dice on this onion. And then I like to peel it after. And if there's that little thin layer, sometimes the knife gets caught on that, so you want to take that out. Okay. Now you're going to make your cuts along with the lines in the onion. Okay, once you have your cuts and it looks like that. Okay, we're going to do a medium dice. So medium dice, I'm not going super close. Okay, small would be about here. I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay. All right, so again, so my lines are about a 1/2 inch apart, and I'm going to do the same for this cut, about 1/2 inch. And that is the final size that I'm looking for on my onion. Okay, and then the root gets discarded. Okay, for the celery, the next thing, I'm going to look for a small dice on this. So I'm going to trim any brown edges. Okay. Okay. I'm going to cut my sticks, peel off any stringy parts, and I want to trim. We are going for looks on this one. In a soup, we want everything to be the same size and uniform and nice looking. Okay, and I'm going for a small dice. So a medium dice we said would be about 1/2 inch. So we're gonna go about 1/4 inch. And a small dice. Okay, in comparison to your medium dice. For your carrot, you want to make sure to peel that. And a well-scrubbed carrot still has some dirty lines in it. Take your ends off. And for carrots, we always cut the carrot into finger-sized pieces about, right? And then work from there. So this one's a little thinner. So we're also going to be doing a small dice on the carrot. So I'm going to cut this in half so that I have 2 flat feet. Okay, and then from there, I got a little bit here that needs to be peeled. From here, I'm going to cut those in half again. Okay, again, we're looking for roughly 1/4 inch. Now, I'm not squaring off the carrot. I'm not getting that finicky, but I do want pieces, small dice. Okay, again, you want it to match the celery and celery. Next is going to be the potato. Potatoes should be peeled for a soup, usually. The skin can start to peel off and look unpleasant. Okay, so your potato is going to be a medium dice. And in order to do that, you're going to cut it in half. Okay. And with a potato, in order to ensure that you have little waste, right? There's 2 different ways that you could do it. You could square it off, right? And give yourself perfectly square potatoes, right? And then you would have a medium dice at a 1/2 inch, right? Then you have these edges. You have a little bit of waste when you do it this way. So I don't like to trim it up too much because we don't want to waste. So those are going to be nice and square. And our other ones are going to be slightly, you know, corner shapes there. Now you want these to be bigger. The reason why I did the onion bigger is because the onion in a small dice really disappears in a soup, and it's going to get nice and soft. And you don't want the potatoes to be so small that they disintegrate as well. Okay. For the garlic mince, you're going to do it around the same way as you did the onion. Okay, so you're going to make your little slices in it, and then you're going to do one more going this way. And that is your minced garlic. A soup, in addition to being versatile, this soup in particular is a really nice way to demonstrate all of your knife skills. It is going to demonstrate developing flavor and letting things cook long enough, and tasting, seasoning, and things like that. For the developing flavor part is where the tomatoes are going to come in. So I have a can of tomatoes here, whole tomatoes that I've crushed by hand or with a fork or a potato masher or a whisk. And the step in the soup where this gets added, the demonstration of your ability to check the soup, taste, season, and make sure that this reduces and really concentrates in flavor. The next part of it is going to be drain and rinsed beans, which is going to add protein and bulk to the soup. All right, so you want to, beans are going to, unless otherwise specified, which sometimes in soups I do leave it in. For a white bean, you can leave it in unless the recipe says to drain it. And for this recipe, we are going to drain the beans because it's not cannellini beans. Here I have kidney beans and some pinto beans that I'm going to be using. And this soup is also going to demonstrate your ability to properly cook pasta in a soup. So when you are cooking pasta in a soup, you want to make sure that it doesn't overcook and it doesn't absorb too much. This soup is also going to utilize some fresh herbs, right? So we have thyme and oregano and rosemary that are going to go into the soup and then be removed. So it's important to pay attention to the thyme and make sure you remove those so they're not in too long and don't take out too much flavor. Also going to demonstrate the ability to properly cook greens and to wilt them within a soup. So if you were using baby spinach, those would cook for less time, right? Because that's a less hardy green. This, what I have available to me right now, is kale, which is going to be a lot more forgiving. You definitely can cook this a lot longer, but you still don't want to overcook it, you know, to the point where it's olive green or it's really, really mushy and kind of, you know, unpleasant to eat. You want it to have some substance left to it. So in a medium saucepan that's going to hold all of your soup, you are going to heat your oil. And we're using some olive oil here. And throughout this recipe, you may see that it's going to need more or less of the amount of oil that you have in. So you need to pay attention and adjust it as you go. So I'm going to start by sauteing my vegetables. So I want them soft, but not brown. So I've been sauteing my vegetables for about 10 minutes now, and it's important to season throughout, right? Not just salt at the end. And salt is also gonna help pull out some moisture, so I salted before. I'm gonna add some more pepper, keep going, tasting things. And to saute is relatively medium heat, right? It's not sweating because we will get a little bit of browning, but we don't want intense browning in this. We don't want the burning, right? Especially because we have that minced garlic in there. And one of the things I usually taste for in a finished soup is that the vegetables have been properly cooked. Otherwise it just tastes like boiled onions, you know, and carrots being a little underdone is not the worst thing, but you really don't want to bite into a soup that has crunchy carrots or celery. Okay, so at this point, you want to make sure that you have really cooked the vegetables well. Now comes the step where you're going to further develop flavor. So you have your canned tomatoes that you crushed. And why not use already crushed tomatoes? Why not use diced tomatoes? So diced tomatoes have a chemical that's been added to them to, or an additive I should say, that is added to them to help them keep their shape. So I don't really like them in this application. I like that in some, a recipe where I want to see the pieces of tomatoes. I want this to disintegrate a lot, but have some chunks left. Right? And already crushed tomatoes are usually a little too smooth. Sometimes they all vary greatly. So your best bet is to go with whole tomatoes and crush them yourself. So at this point, I want the tomatoes to cook and reduce and thicken for at least 5 minutes. I want to see a change in color. I want to see a change in consistency as well. So my tomatoes have definitely changed in color. They went from a pinkish red to definitely a more orange red. It's thicker and it's been evaporating quite a bit. So at this point, I am now going to add my potato. Right, and we definitely do not want that potato to overcook and to disintegrate. And I'm going to add my beans. And I'm going to add my broth and my water. I'm going to place my whole herbs right on top. And I'm going to remove them after 5 minutes of cooking. I'm going to continue to simmer until the potato is cooked through. Okay, the soup has been simmering, and if you have bigger herbs, they should be able to pick out. I had some smaller ones, so I have to hunt for them. But this is why we keep them whole. You can also tie them if you have some kitchen string, kitchen twine. It's not that bad to search for them. And now we're going to test the potato. So this soup, because it has potatoes in it, also demonstrates your ability to cook a root vegetable properly. So you want to easily cut through the potato. Okay, and you should be able to smash it with a fork or the side of a knife. So I'm seeing right here, just by that cut, I can feel it. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, that it took too much resistance. Okay, and it's going to need more time. So I'm going to give that another 3 minutes and check it then. Okay, so I've given my potatoes a little more time, and they are now completely cooked, and they are not falling apart, right? I can smash them with a fork, but a knife goes easily through, but they're not disintegrating. And it's really important that it doesn't get to that step, because if it gets to that part where they're falling apart, they're going to start to disintegrate throughout the entire soup there, right? So I want to also taste and re-season at this point. Salt and pepper, see where everything's at. And there are directions for soups, obviously, for all recipes, but you also have to go with your own timing. And, you know, the potatoes said 5 minutes, but it took a little longer. So you gotta, work with also your intuition. So now I'm gonna be adding at this step in the recipe, at this step in the soup, I'm going to be adding some pasta. And I want to cook this according to package directions. So let's say this says 8 minutes, -2. Why the -2? Because I want to shut the heat and turn everything down before these get too mushy, assuming that there's going to be some carryover cooking, right? After I add the pasta, I would add any type of green that I want to wilt gently. So if you were doing baby spinach, you'd want to put that in basically when the heat is off, when you're all done, because all it is going to do is wilt. But I'm going to be adding kale. So because I'm going to be adding kale, I'm going to give it a little more time in the soup. So I'm going to be adding it now, and I'm going to watch it and check to see when it has wilted and is tender, but not when it's gone too far and is then olive green and starting to fall apart and become mushy. I cooked my greens long enough to wilt them, but not overcook them. And remember that spinach, if you're using spinach, would cook for less time. Baby spinach would not cook at all. It would just wilt in the residual heat. And after my greens were cooked, I added my pasta. So you want to check your pasta for doneness, and you want it to be al dente even though it's been simmering in the soup, right? So you're going to do the package directions For al dente, -2. So if it says al dente is 10 minutes, you'll do it for 8. And you want to just check it and make sure that you can see that it's not overcooked, and then you're ready to go. When you serve this soup, it would be really nice if you had some fresh green on top. You could chiffonade some basil if you have it. If you don't have any fresh greens, you could garnish it with some Parmesan cheese or a slice of bread or something like that, a drizzle of olive oil. But what you're looking for in your finished soup is a rich color, evenly cut vegetables that are appealing to look at and also are all cooked at the same rate. Potatoes that are not overcooked and mushy. So just to show you the potato, easily a fork goes through it. And when you smash it, it makes like mashed potatoes, but it is not soggy, it is not disintegrated. And that is a basic minestrone style soup that you could adapt to whatever vegetables and greens that you like. It demonstrates knife skills, development of flavor, garnishing, plating, pasta cookery, root vegetables and tuber cookery, and also wilting greens.